Hello everyone, welcome back to Anju Rajneesh B.Ed class. If you want to complete your B.Ed practical file and score full marks, then this video is for you. Today, I will explain understanding the self in a simple and clear way. Understanding the self concept of self and self-identity, or who am I? The first step to success is to gain a solid understanding of who you are as an individual and to know what factors are important to you. We all have our own unique pattern of abilities, interests and personality traits. Self-understanding pinpoints what your likes, dislikes, strengths and other traits are, and inspires personal growth by helping you define your identity. One's self-concept, also called self-construction, self-identity or self-structure, is a collection of beliefs about oneself that shape how an individual perceives and understands their own personality. Includes elements such as academic performance, gender roles and sexuality, and racial identity. Generally, self-concept embodies the answer to, who am I? Baumeister, 1999, provides the following self-concept definition: the individual's belief about himself or herself, including the person's attributes and who and what the self is. Self-esteem self-concept differs from self-esteem. Self-concept is a cognitive or descriptive component of one's self, e.g., I am a fast runner. Self-concept is made up of one's self-schemas and interacts with self-esteem, self-knowledge and the social self to form the self as a whole. It includes the past, present, and future. Future selves represent individuals' ideas of what they might become, what they would like to become, or what they are afraid of becoming. Self-esteem refers to the extent to which we like, accept, or approve of ourselves, or how much we value ourselves. Self-esteem always involves a degree of evaluation, and we may have either a positive or negative view of ourselves. High self-esteem, i.e., we have a positive view of ourselves. This tends to lead to confidence in our abilities, self-acceptance, not worrying about what others think. Optimism, low self-esteem, i.e., we have a negative view of ourselves. This tends to lead to lack of confidence, want to be, look like someone else, always worrying about what others might think. Pessimism. There are several ways of measuring self-esteem. For example, the Harrell Self-Esteem Inventory is a questionnaire comprising 15 statements about a range of interests. Another example is the Thematic Apperception Test, TAT, which is a neutral cartoon given to the participant, who then has to devise a story about what is going on. Development of the inner self. Researchers debate over when self-concept development begins. Some assert that gender stereotypes and expectations set by society influence this development from an early age. Parents' expectations for their children impact children's understanding of themselves by approximately age 3. Others suggest that self-concept develops later, around age 7 or 8, when children are developmentally prepared to interpret their own feelings and abilities, as well as the feedback they receive from parents, teachers, and peers. Despite differing opinions about the onset of self-concept development, researchers agree on the importance of one's self-concept, which influences people's behaviors and cognitive and emotional outcomes, including academic achievement, levels of happiness, anxiety, social integration, self-esteem, and life satisfaction. Personality. The term personality is derived from the Latin word persona, which means a mask. According to K. Young, personality is a patterned body of habits, traits, attitudes and ideas of an individual, as these are organized externally into roles and as they relate internally to motivation, goals and various aspects of selfhood. G. W. Allport defined it as a person's pattern of habits, attitudes and traits which determine his adjustment to his environment. Lawrence A. Perveen has given a working definition of personality in these words: personality represents those structural and dynamic properties of an individual or individuals as they reflect themselves in characteristic responses to all situations. On the basis of these definitions, it may be said that there are two main approaches to the study of personality: 1. The psychological. 2. The sociological. Thus, personality is the sum of the ideas, attitudes and values of a person which determine his role in society and form an integral part of his character. Personality is acquired by the individual as a result of his participation in group life. As a member of the group, he learns certain behavior systems and symbolic skills which determine his ideas, attitudes and social values. To sum up, we would say that 1. Personality is not related to bodily structure alone. It includes both structure and dynamics. 2. Personality is an indivisible unit. 3. Personality is neither good nor bad. 4. Personality is not a mysterious phenomenon. 5. Every personality is unique. 6. Personality refers to persistent qualities of the individual. It expresses consistency in behavior. 7. Personality is acquired. 8. Personality is influenced by social interaction. Determinants of distinctive personality. Personality is a result of the combination of 4 factors, i.e., physical environment, heredity, culture, and particular experiences. Here we discuss each factor determining personality separately. Personality and environment. The influence of the physical environment, that is, the geographical environment, determines cultural variability. Eskimos have a culture different from that of Indians due to the fact that the former have a geography different from the latter. Man comes to form ideas and attitudes according to the physical environment he lives in. Aristotle claimed that people living in northern Europe were owing to a cold climate full of spirit but lacking in intelligence and skill. The natives of Asia, on the other hand, are intelligent and inventive but lack in spirit and are, therefore, slaves. Heredity and personality. Heredity is another factor determining personality. Human personality, he tends to resemble his parents in physical appearance and intelligence. The nervous system, the organic drives, and the ductless glands have a great bearing upon personality. They determine whether an individual will be vigorous or feeble, energetic or lethargic, idiotic or intelligent, coward or courageous. A man with a good physical structure and health generally possesses an attractive personality. A man of poor health, puny size, and ugly physical features develops an inferiority complex. The growth of his personality is checked. Rejected and hated by society, he may turn out to be a thief, a deceitful person, or a drunkard. It is also probable that he may become a leader or a genius like Socrates and Napoleon. Likewise, the nervous system and glandular system may affect the personality of an individual. Personality and culture. According to some thinkers, personality is the subjective aspect of culture. They regard personality and culture as two sides of the same coin. Shero has observed, the development of personality and the acquisition of culture are not different processes, but one and the same learning process. Personality is an individual aspect of culture, while culture is a collective aspect of personality. The culture provides the raw material out of which the individual makes his life. The traditions, customs, laws, religion, institutions, and moral and social standards of a group affect the personality of the group members. From the moment of birth, the child is treated in ways which shape his personality. Every culture exerts a series of general influences upon the individuals who grow up under it. Personality and particular experiences. Personality is also determined by another factor, namely, particular and unique experiences. There are 2 types of experiences. 1. Those that stem from continuous association with one's group. 2. Those that arise suddenly and are not likely to recur. The type of people who meet the child daily has a major influence on his personality. The personality of parents does more to affect a child's personality. If the parents are kind, tolerant of childish pranks, interested in athletics, and anxious to encourage their child's separate interests, the child will have different experiences and there shall be a different influence on his personality than in the case where the parents are unkind, quick-tempered, and arbitrary in home is. Fashion. The style of personality that will by and large characterize the individual throughout his life. Communication skill and soft skills. What is communication? A definition of communication will include these attributes. It is a process that is continuous in time. It is interactive between people. Its purpose is to transmit facts, thoughts, ideas, interpretations, desires, and emotions. Soft skills is a term often associated with a person's EQ, emotional intelligence quotient, which is the cluster of personality traits that characterize one's relationships with other people. These skills can include social graces, communication abilities, language skills, personal habits, cognitive or emotional empathy, and leadership traits. A person's soft skill EQ is an important part of their individual contribution to the success of an organization. Organizations which deal with customers face-to-face are generally more successful if they train their staff to use these skills. Screening or training for personal habits or traits such as dependability and conscientiousness can yield significant return on investment for an organization. For this reason, soft skills are increasingly sought out by employers, in addition to standard qualifications. Below are some soft skills sampling categories that might be helpful for achievement. 1. Communication. Presentation skills. Spoken communication. Difficult conversations. Professional writing. Effective email writing. Teamwork. Inter-team cooperation. Intra-team cooperation. Diversity. Productivity. Goal setting and action. 3. leadership skills, empowerment, planning, confidence in leaders, vision and direction, supervision, coaching and or mentoring. 4. Decision making or problem solving, creativity, flexibility, team problem solving. 5. Managing time and pressures, change, time management, effective meetings. 6. Self-management or attitude, stress management, positive attitude and influence, initiative, concern and compassion for others. Self and identity is a subfield of psychology. As the name implies, it deals with topics pertaining to both self and identity. What distinguishes self and identity as a discipline is its scientific character. There are two levels of analysis that one can look at self and identity. One level of analysis is the self on the individual level, for example, self-states, self-motives, self-efficacy, etc. Self-states are self-processes that include unbiased self-awareness. However, self-motives are more serious impulses to action, something that is innate and universal to all situations. People join groups for a multitude of reasons, most frequently because membership satisfies a need of the individual. Group membership can provide companionship, survival and security, affiliation, status, power and control, and achievement. There is currently no universal description of what constitutes a group, though research has identified a few common requirements that contribute to recognition of a group. Interdependence. Individual members must depend, to some degree, on the output of the collective members. Social interaction. Accomplishing a goal requires some form of verbal or non-verbal communication among members. Perception of a group. All members of the collective must agree they are part of the group. Commonly of purpose. All members of the collective come together to attain a common goal. Favoritism. Members of the same group tend to be positively prejudiced towards other members and discriminate in their favor. Yoga for Peace and Harmony. The 21st of June is declared by United Nations Organization, UNO, as the International Day of Yoga with the slogan, Yoga for Peace and Harmony. This declaration is a formal acknowledgement of the universality as regards acceptance and popularity of yoga all over the world. This declaration is a feather in the cap of India as regards its national and ancient heritage, that is yoga. Protocol laid down by the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. It is in order to take a perspective as regards the essence and efficacy of yoga. Essence of yoga. Yoga is one of the 6 Shad Darshana, Astika or orthodox Indian philosophies which, like the other 5 philosophies, aims at liberating man ultimately from the miseries and sufferings of human existence. It is a moksha shastra and hence the final goal of all yoga practices is moksha or kaivalya. On the path towards this goal, all the dimensions of human personality are facilitated, these dimensions being social, personal, physical, physiological, mental, psychological, intellectual and spiritual. Hence, on the path of yoga, the total personality of the human being is developed. But this development of the personality is a means to the final goal of kaivalya and not an end in itself. To put it differently, personality development of physical and mental health are byproducts on the path of yoga and not the ultimate purpose of yoga practice. Hence, being attracted to yoga for making the body beautiful or fit, or getting health benefits or relief from ailments, which is what is happening today, may be underutilizing the potential of yoga, if not misusing yoga. It has to be recognized that the true spirit of yoga lies in its preventive aspect rather than its therapeutic aspect. Yoga, as practiced in ancient times, is a lifestyle and not a style of life. Efficacy of yoga. Yoga practices yield unimaginable positive effects and without any adverse effects. They cater towards both health and healing. In the empirical world, there is hardly any other discipline or regimen which caters to the total personality of a human being as yoga does. Practicing of yogic principles, which is the same as being yogic, renders one conflict-free in society. It makes the body beautiful, fit and healthy. Mind becomes peaceful and calm and intellectually sharper. With increasing awareness levels resulting from practicing yoga, an individual is unburdened of his heavy conditioning and rigid habit patterns. He is able to take more from the moment and ultimately more from life. The yoga practitioner does experience a glimpse of the peace that passes all understanding. Realization of essence and efficacy of yoga. The most significant condition for realizing the essence of yoga and enjoying the efficacy of its practices is that the practitioner needs to practice yoga for a prolonged period with perseverance, without any break, and with full faith and respect towards it. Contribution of Bharatiya Sanskriti Peetham to Yoga. J. Somaya's Bharatiya Sanskriti Peetham is gradually and definitely making its presence felt in the firmament of yoga. It is an institute to reckon with when it comes to its contribution in the yoga field. It initiates an individual into yoga with its certificate course and PG diploma course, and sustaining the interest of the adherent encourages the pursuing of its BA and MA in Yoga Shastra degree courses. To complete the journey of yoga education, it is one of the few institutes which offer PhD in yoga. The strength of BSP is that it generates yoga sadhakas who are not only well versed in the physical practices of yoga but who are also thoroughly knowledgeable in the theoretical and philosophical aspects. Breathing exercises: the first act of life breathing. The last act of life breathing. Everything else lies somewhere in the middle but seems to assume utmost importance in our life. And this key element called breath, driving our very life journey, how often do we stop to observe the process of breathing in and out during the day? We don't feel the need to because it is so natural. But do you know a little attention on the way we breathe can open up numerous secrets to good health, increased immunity, a calm and relaxed mind, and a happy state of being for starters? All this by learning to breathe right. But who needs to learn how to breathe? Doesn't it keep happening on its own all the time? Yes, but pranayamas help regulate the flow of breath, removing any blocks in the nadis so that both our body and mind stay healthy. Relaxation in difficult asana by being aware of breath. Can you imagine relaxing in boat posture or Superman pose? Sounds impossible. Well, it can be possible only by paying a little attention to our breath while we hold in these postures. What happens by bringing your awareness to the breath? The mind becomes relaxed and so you are better able to relax in the pose. From concentrating on the discomfort in the posture, the attention shifts to relaxing more in the pose. Another advantage of coordinating breath with the body postures: sometimes the mind may wander off on its own trip as you exercise. The body keeps moving but the mind is elsewhere. On such moments, gently bringing your awareness to the breath brings back the mind to the present moment so that you are aware of the stretch where it happens and give your 100% to the asana practice. How to do breathing exercise? Kapalbhati pranayama benefits: cleansing, invigorating, warming, prevents illness and allergies. This breath consists of rapid, forced exhales followed by passive inhales. In Kundalini practice, Kapalbhati breath is sometimes done while holding poses. 1. Come to sit in a comfortable cross-legged position. 2. Take 2 or 3 deep inhales and exhales through the nose to prepare. 3. Inhale to a comfortable level, and then exhale sharply and forcefully through the nose, drawing the belly in as you exhale. 4. Let the inhale happen passively and continue this cycle of forceful exhales and passive inhales at a fast pace, so that the belly is pumping continuously. 5. Do 3 rounds of 30 breaths each, coming back to deep inhales and exhales between each round. 6. Come back to normal breathing if you feel lightheaded at any time. Shitali pranayama cools and calms you. Slowly sip air through a rolled tongue or pursed lips. Try it on a hot day or at the end of a vigorous yoga session. It's pretty subtle, so you can even do it in a crowded subway car or elevator for a little cooling relief. Here's how. 1. If you can, come to sit in a comfortable cross-legged position. 2. Take 2 or 3 deep inhales and exhales through your nose in preparation. 3. Roll your tongue, curling the sides in towards the center to form a tube. Stick the end of the tongue out between your pursed lips. If you can't roll your tongue, just purse your lips making a small O shape with your mouth. 4. Inhale through the tube of the tongue. 5. Exhale through your nose. 6. Repeat 5-10 times as you feel the cooling effect. Lion's breath relieves tension in the face by stretching the jaw and tongue. It can be done in almost any pose. 1. Come to kneel with your seat resting in your feet. 2. Place your hands on your knees. 3. Inhale through the nose. 4. Exhale through the mouth, making a ha sound. As you exhale, open your mouth wide and stick your tongue out as far as possible towards your chin. You can also bring your drishti towards your third eye as you exhale. 6. Inhale, returning to a neutral face. 7. Repeat 3-5 times. Anulom Vilom. You can practice this breathing exercise in any seated position. Make yourself comfortable in Sukhasana, half lotus, Virasana, Vajrasana, or even sitting in a chair. You will be sitting for several minutes, so use props as necessary so you can maintain your posture. Position your right hand in Vishnu Mudra by folding your pointer and middle fingers into your palm, leaving your thumb, ring finger, and pinky sticking up. Bring your thumb to the right side of your nose and your ring finger to the left side. 2. Close your eyes or take a soft gaze downward. Inhale and exhale once to prepare. 3. Close off your right nostril with your thumb. 4. Inhale through your left nostril. 5. Close off your left nostril with your ring finger. 6. Open and exhale through your right nostril. 7. Inhale through your right nostril. 8. Close off your right nostril with your thumb. 9. Open and exhale through your left nostril. 10. Inhale through your left nostril. 13. At first, you might only make it through a few rounds of this breath. Try to work up to doing at least 10 rounds. You can also take a break and then resume the exercise. 14. If your mind begins to wander, focus on counting the length of your inhales and exhales or on the sensation of your breath on the skin under your nose. It may feel cool as you inhale and warm as you exhale. 15. If you ever begin to feel lightheaded, release both nostrils and breathe normally. Meditation is the practice of turning your attention to a single point of reference. It can involve focusing on the breath, on bodily sensations, or on a word or phrase known as a mantra. In other words, meditation means turning your attention away from distracting thoughts and focusing on the present moment. Forms of meditation: physical postures. Various postures are taken up in some meditation techniques. Sitting and standing postures are used. Popular in Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism are the full lotus, half lotus and kneeling positions. Meditation is sometimes done while walking, known as kinhi, or while doing a simple task mindfully, known as isamu. Some mantra techniques do not require assuming special positions, only sitting comfortable with eyes closed. Prayer beads. Most of the ancient religions of the world have a tradition of using some type of prayer beads as tools in devotional meditation. Most prayer beads and Christian rosaries consist of beads linked together by a thread. The Roman Catholic rosary is a string of beads containing 5 sets with 10 small beads. Each set of 10 is separated by another bead. The Hindu Japa Mala has 108 beads, the figure 108 in itself having spiritual significance, as well as those used in Jainism and Buddhist prayer beads. Each bead is counted. Once a person recites a mantra until the person has gone all the way around the mala. The Muslim Misbah has 99 beads. Specific modifications of each religion may be different. Health benefits of meditation. Though meditation is usually recognized as a largely spiritual practice, it also has many health benefits. The yoga and meditation techniques are being implemented in management of life-threatening diseases, in transformation of molecular and genetic structure, in reversal of mental illness, accelerated learning programs, in perceptions and communications beyond the physical, in solving problems in atomic and nuclear physics, in gaining better ecological understanding, in management of lifestyle and future world problems. Some benefits of meditation are: 1. It lowers oxygen consumption. It increases blood flow and slows the heart rate. It decreases respiratory rate, increases exercise tolerance in heart patients, leads to a deeper level of relaxation. Good for people with high blood pressure as it brings BP to normal. Reduces anxiety attacks by lowering the levels of blood lactate. Decrease muscle tension and headache. Builds self-confidence. It increases serotonin production, which influences mood and behavior. Low levels of serotonin are associated with depression, obesity, insomnia and headaches. Helps in chronic diseases like allergies, arthritis etc. Reduce premenstrual syndrome. Helps in post-operative healing. Enhances the immune system. Research has revealed that meditation increases activity of natural killer cells, which kill bacteria and cancer cells. Also reduces activity of viruses and emotional distress. Poem on self. As I look into the mirror, I'm not who I want to be. I want things to change. I need things to change. But I have to start within me. I can change my thought process and exceed my expectations of myself. Then maybe, just maybe, I think highly of myself.